Okay. So I think like since I already shared my screen, I hope still the screen share is visible, right?
Yes, yes, Naveen. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So today we are going to continue the discussion about the storage accounts. Okay. We're going to see more on the security aspects, like how you can secure and how the communications can be routed for betterment. Okay, that is what we are going to see. And I also have a small demo for the this thing. Is that the tables and queues? Okay, though you might not be directly working with tables and queues. Okay, but I just want to show you how it looks like these things, tables and queues. I actually have a small app which I wrote. So I mean, not the whole code, but this is something which we will see. Okay, once the storage discussion is done, the containers thing. Okay, so with that, let's get started. I'll just show you the setup what I have. Okay, basically there is a virtual machine which I have created. So whatever we have seen in the previous class, I showed you through Azure Storage Explorer, which is a good tool. But in real time, like I mean, that is mostly used for debugging things on rare cases if you want to connect and do things. But the way how your application is going to interact and all, like let's say if you have something installed on VM and if that wants to communicate, so how that is going to work and all is slightly different. So that is what we are going to see today. So I have a VM and this VM has a public IP also, and there is nothing fancy with the networking part. So I just created a VNet saying lab VNet, and this is having a subnet with all the defaults. Okay, nothing fancy so far. Now, additionally, what I did is like there is a tool called AzCopy. Okay, so this tool is something which can be used for transferring files to Azure storage and all. Okay, basically it's like a command line utility using which you can copy data from on-premise to Azure, Azure storage to on-premise, all those things. Basically, it's just a CLI tool. Okay. So I have already installed this tool in the VM, okay, the Linux VM which I spinned up. The installation is nothing like complex. So if I go here, right, this is the documentation I followed. For Windows, it's like for Windows also you have a separate link, but we are using Ubuntu. So I just went through these scripts. That's it. Nothing fancy here. So I just did it before our session so that we'll save some time. So this tool is installed. Okay. Now what we wanted to achieve is, okay, based on whatever we know till now, like we talked about access keys, SAS token, and all, right? So now what we are going to see is like how we can basically, if we have any file in our VM, how you can upload it to the storage account, because like no one would be going from the portal or using storage explorer. It's not going to happen. So in real time also you would be using AzCopy kind of utility to load files into your storage account. Okay, so that is what we are going to see. For that, I'm just going to, so right now we don't have any files here. Okay, that's a package, okay, which we don't have to worry about. So what I will do, I'll just say this is a test file and let's put it into maybe um, data.txt, or I'll just say demo.txt. Okay, so now we have this demo.txt file and we're going to see like how we can upload this. Okay, the command to do upload is, okay, AzCopy. You have different set of options which you could use, but to copy a file we just say AzCopy copy. Okay, and then you will say what is the source file. In this case demo is the source file, and basically you will give the destination path. Okay, in our case, okay, this is the storage account which I have. And let's see if we have a container. No. Okay, let's create one. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'll just name it as data. Okay, rest all is all default. Okay, if I have to show you in the networking side, public network access is enabled. Like whatever we get defaults when we create the storage account, that's what I have kept. No, I haven't changed any configuration yet. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to put that file inside this container. Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the SAS token here and I'll be using that. Okay. Now for us to put the file, okay, maybe what I'll do is I'll just generate the SAS token now and I will be using this URL. Okay. Probably before even putting that URL in the command, right? So if you see here, basically this URL itself will contain the token. Okay, this so there is two things which you get here. One is the SAS token, and other one is the URL. Okay, so if you see this URL itself contains this token. Okay, whatever we have. So the format would be like your storage account name, and depending on what type of service you have, then the container name, then there is a question mark, then the token. Okay, so what we are doing, like I'll just take this and I'll put it here. Okay, so it says failed and 0. Okay, it didn't work basically. Okay, because if you see here, this clearly says it got a response saying uh, the request is not authorized to perform this operation using this permission. So what I did, like, I just went with the default permission. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to upload a file, right? We are basically trying to do a copy. So what I wanted to do is I'll just say I'll add write also and create also to this list also. It's okay. We'll have because we want to query that later. And I am going to regenerate this as URL, basically the token again. And let's see. I'm going to remove this whole thing. Okay. And let's give the new URL which we generated with updated permission. Okay. This time, if you see, it has done and uploaded one file. Okay. That is what you see here. And if you want to query what it has uploaded, right? Instead of like copy, you can just do blob list. Okay. There is a command called AzCopy list. Now, if you see, it's the demo.txt, and just to show you from the portal as well, like if I go here, we are able to see this file. Okay, so that's how like you can use the SAS token. Okay, but again, like the problem which we see is we have to take care of this token and this I told, if you remember, I told you this storage account is a public service, right? Which means like it is accessible over internet, and this storage account also has a set of public IPs which internally Microsoft would be using. Okay, if you search for Azure public IP address, okay, you will basically get this thing. Not this one. Let's see. Huh. Okay, this will give a JSON document. So if you look at this data, let's say open, this has all the service which are public. Okay, whatever IP is reserved for that specific service, Microsoft has published it. Okay, like if you want to like whitelist for a specific service and all, you can do it. So for example, if I search for storage, you see this, right? Like this is for Azure storage. Again, this is available for different regions also you can search. Okay, for example, if you see this list is huge, right? If I search for um, central India, you will see further set of IP addresses for region based. Again, this is for what? If I go up, this will tell like this is for which resource and all. Like that, you will basically have this list, okay, for what kind of things we have the public IP documented. You can just go through this document. JSON, it is available. You can download it and get it. So what I wanted to say is like still, whatever we are trying to do here is not so great. It's not secure. Okay, this will still go via internet, and that's how we are able to get this data. Now, so we basically wanted to avoid passing all these things, right? Because I don't want to basically give my tokens and all in the command line. Again, this token can also expire. Okay. To overcome that, there is a different option. Again, there are different types of security related things which we are going to see. Okay. So the first thing which I wanted to tell you is there is something called identities. Okay. So if I go to the virtual machine, okay, in this case, it's going to be our virtual machine which needs access to the storage account. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to give a identity to our virtual machine. Okay. So when you create the virtual machine, also you will see this option. Probably I'll quickly show you where it is, and we'll again come back to the VM part. So I'm just saying create. If you go to the management section, right, we have covered basic disk networking. Management, if you go, like you have a whole bunch of other options. One of the thing is this identity. Okay, enable system assigned managed identity. If I click on this checkbox, that is what the other screen which I was showing you. Let me go back to the VM and let's go to the security identity on. Okay, let's click on save. There is no restart needed for this, so we can just enable this in flight. So this is going to create something like you can think of. It's going to put an identity or you can tag for this VM. Okay, using which you can reference. Okay, if you see, this is the ID. Okay, which is assigned for this VM. Okay, which means I can use this identity and grant access to other resources for which this VM needs access. In this case, it is going to be the storage account. So what I will do, like I'll go to the storage account, and this is our storage account. Though we are going to talk more about access control when we discuss about the enter ID, but for now, just remember IAM is just like identity and access management. Okay, like in any other clouds, if you're coming from different clouds also, it is the same concept. Okay, where you can create users, groups, give permissions to group and all, where you can manage all those things. That's what this provides. And here we are going to grant permission for that VM identity to this storage account. Okay, that is what we are going to do. So what I can do is add role assignment, and I can tell what type of role I want. Again, you will see whole bunch of other roles which we are not interested in. So what I will do is I'll just put a filter saying I just want only for the storage. And there is a permission called owner. I'm just giving full permission. Here, as I said, right, you can give permissions to users, groups, and service principal. In our case, we want to grant permission to a managed identity. Okay, which means there is a different service within Azure which we want to grant access to this resource. Okay, now if I go and select, it is already telling I have a virtual machine which has a managed identity. Okay, and it is going to pick my VM. Okay, basically this would contain the managed identity which I just showed. Let's select this, and this is the object ID which you would have seen there as well. Okay, now let's review this, and let's create this. We're just creating that mapping. Okay. Now this is in place. If you want to check this, you can just click on view access, and here it says, right? Wait, let me refresh this page. Sometimes it won't reflect in the UI. Okay, that is my access. So let's look at role assignments. You see, right? This is a managed identity of this VM, which we have granted to this storage account. Okay, that is what we have done so far. Now going back to this VM, right? If I still run this command, I mean, this is going to still work, but I wanted to do something like this. I want to basically remove all the other SaaS token related things. And if I run this, okay, let me just clear the screen so that it will be easy for you. So what I'm trying to do is at the end, my goal is like I want to get an output without passing any of the token. Okay. Because I have an identity which is already mapped and granted permission for this VM. Now, for us to make use of this, right? So now if you see, it says authenticating to the source using unknown, please authenticate using Entra ID, use AzCopy login or append or SAS token to your Azure URL. Okay, which means it's failing at this point. Now, if you look at this error, it's 401. Okay, fail to authenticate. Okay, just take a look at this message carefully. It is fail to authenticate. That is what it is saying. And if you remember the previous error which we got, last time when we tried, it was showing like 403 for that permission error. Okay, so this is for the authentication. Now, for us to make use of that identity, right? We have to do something like AzCopy login, okay? And we have to say identity. I think I spelled it correct. Yeah. So it says login with the identity succeeded. Okay. Now, if I run this list command, you see, without passing any credentials, we are able to list that files. Okay, which means I don't need that token anymore. This machine can access the container and its data. And this is just one example. Now, if I try to upload also, right, this upload is also going to work. For example, what I will do, this is the storage account. Let's go to the container and I will delete this file. Okay. So let's go here. Instead of list, I'll type copy and demo file. Now, if you see like one done, zero failed. Okay. And this is the simple command we gave. I just gave the storage account name and the container name. That's it. No more hard-coded secrets or the token and all we required for this case. Okay. So that's how you can make use of managed identity to grant access to, in this case, it's a storage account. I think recently there was a announcement. I think last year there was a announcement saying SQL database also supports managed identities and all. Probably we'll see that when we talk about databases and all. I'll talk more on that. But going back here, you also have something. The problem with this managed identity, whatever we have used, right? This one is system assigned, which means when you operate things at scale, right? If let's say I delete this VM and recreate, again I have to create a system assigned identity and map it. To overcome that, there is something called user assigned managed identities, which means this would be a separate entity. Okay, basically you are creating a separate entity, and probably what I will do is managed. Let me just remove that whatever we have assigned now and save. Let's go back to this user assigned managed identities. It is turned off. I can just say add. Basically, let's search for this. I think it should show here. Okay, managed identities. So this time we are going to create a separate managed identity for us. Okay, and I can map this to any number of VMs, whatever I am creating. I can just simply map it and use this one. Okay, so what I'll do is VM identities. Let's say next, create what? Um, okay, I cannot use. I'll just say VM. Let's see if this works. Okay. So once this is created, right, you will be doing the mapping by going to the virtual machine screen. Let's go to the virtual machine and let's go to this identity user mapping. Now I can just say add. Okay, it's still not reflecting. Wait, let's refresh this. Okay, now you see, right? This is the identity which we created, and we are telling use this as our identity. Now, in case like if I have more than one VMs, right, I can just go and map this. Okay, so let's say if I have a scenario where I have like 10 different SQL servers and I have a storage account and different containers for which I wanted to grant access, I can just have this simple tagging. And the permissions would be managed via this IAM, okay, at the storage account layer. So what I can do, I can just go and say add role assignment. And this time, let's again, like we'll do the same thing, but instead of like system assigned identity, we'll pick our own identity which we created. Okay, that is the only difference. Probably I'll go with the same set of permissions. Let's select managed identity. So this time you see user assigned managed identity, right? This is the one which we created. I'll just select this and review assign. Now this once this is in effect, right? We should be still able to run these commands. Okay. Now if you see it is done, it's going to basically overwrite, but it didn't throw any error. Okay. Even though we made that change, okay, I just wanted to show you with user assigned also, still it is working. Okay, any questions?
Naveen, so whatever the storage account we created, no, without this identity or IAM role, we cannot access those or we cannot do anything on the storage accounts.
Without those IAM permission you're asking?
Yes, yes, identity, whatever we
No,
created, right?
you
Just now.
can. I think
Mm.
we saw using access keys we were able to do, right? So using access key and SAS token, even today, like without this IAM permission only, the initial part which I showed, right? With probably if I go here, history. So this command you see here, right? This was with the SAS token. So when we ran this command, we didn't assign anything, we didn't do anything on the IAM side.
Okay. So access token is also like a permission, right?
This is like a permission, but the problem is this goes via internet. Okay, still whatever we have done, it is going via internet only, which we wanted to avoid. Okay, because as I said, these are public service. You have a public endpoint which is available. Okay, still this is not secure, but it is better compared to what we were seeing earlier. We removed the token and all from our command itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how
Yeah.
I'm saying this is still over internet is if you do NS lookup, right?
Mhm.
Um, let's take this one. So if you see, this is hitting this public IP. Okay. Now, if let's see if I have that. Okay, this is the IP address sheet which I had, right? Let's do Control F, and you see this IP range, right? So this is for Central India Azure storage. And if you see, this is matching. So basically, we are hitting this public endpoint, and then our request goes to the actual our storage endpoint, which is this one.
Yep.
Okay. We are going to see how we can overcome this as well. But for now, just remember this goes via this IP address. Okay.
Sure.
Now, what we are going to do is, okay, any other questions before I proceed? Okay, I take that as no and will proceed. Let's go to the, now I'm in the networking section of the storage account. Okay, now we are going to change something here. I wanted to say, okay, right now public network access is enabled. And if you say public network access scope is enabled for all networks, I wanted to change this. Let's say I wanted to enable from a selected network. Okay. We don't want to allow this for all the network. And probably I'm okay to, for now, I'll just allow my IP alone. Okay. And I'll click on save. Remember, we just changed this part, public network access scope, to enable from a selected network, and I have just granted access to my network. And if I go to the containers, I am still able to see my data, which is good. Now I'll go back to the same window again. Okay, we'll go to the manage networks. Now if you see, as soon as I remove this, okay, and let's go to the containers. Let's see if we are still able to see the data. Okay, wait, I have to refresh maybe. Let's go here. This is the storage account, containers. Okay, you see, even we lost our access. Okay, I cannot even see what is inside the container, and this is throwing an error, 403 error. Okay, so with that single change, things are broken now. Let's see if this is going to work. So how many of you feel this is going to work? We still have the managed identity mapping. Do you think this will work?
I think it won't work now because it will be block the public, right?
Okay, no, we didn't disable that, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the whole thing.
We have selected only selected IP. Mm.
Yes. So let's
It
run.
will
Okay.
successful. Yeah.
If you see, it is still throwing 403 error because I didn't map any network. Okay. Though it was set to public, okay, from a selected network, we haven't mapped any of our network here. Okay. So for this to work, right, you need something called service endpoint. Okay. So I told you, like, there are like services like storage account and Azure SQL database and all. There is something called, these are like public service they call, because you just get an endpoint. Okay. To manage this, there is something called service endpoint. Okay. Which can be enabled at a subnet level. Okay. So I'm going to our virtual network, and if I go here, so if you remember, we covered all these things. Okay, now you know what is a private subnet, NAT gateway, network security group, route table. Now comes the service endpoint. Okay, so I thought, like, if we cover storage and then come to this one, it will be easy to explain. So now it is the time. Okay, so these are the different service which are like termed as public service. So in our case, it's going to be storage. Okay, what I'm doing, like, I'm just enabling the service endpoint for the storage account. Okay, and I am going to save this. let this complete. Okay, because without this, if I try to go and add a network there, it will still in the background go and create this service endpoint. Okay, which probably let's go here. I'll go to our storage account and networking, manage. So if you read this one, right, allow selected virtual networks to connect to your resource using a service endpoint. Okay, what we will do, I'll just say you add an existing virtual network and let's select the lab vnet and default is the subnet name what I have created. And let's add it here. And I wanted to click on save. This is done. Let's refresh this page once and check here. Okay, all this looks fine. Now let's go here. Okay, and you see, now again we are back to the working scenario. Now our command is working. But okay, I told you all this communication happens over the internet. Let's see if there is any change to this, right? Because we did some change. It is still going via this public IP. Okay, though now we made changes to our storage account firewall. Okay, basically on the networking side, but still the communication is going via the internet. Okay, I mean this is like in this case, right? Even though like if I remove the our public IP, still this would hit the destination, the storage account over this public IP, which we wanted to avoid. Okay, so to overcome that, there is a separate concept called private endpoint. Okay, before going to private endpoint, I wanted to talk about one more thing. Okay, let's go to the virtual network and let's go to the subnet. Okay, before even showing this, right, what I will do, let me create another storage account. Okay, so that it will be very easy for you to see. Probably I'll copy this same name and I'll just say 02 and let's go with standard LRS and rest all it's pretty much same. Anyways, I'm going to come and enable this what is it service endpoint, but let's create the storage account and I wanted to show you one thing so that it is easy for you to understand. That's why I'm creating one more storage account. Let's wait for this to finish. This should not take more time. See, done. Okay. So what I will do, let's go to the container and I'll say add container data, create. We'll just upload some random files, okay, so that we can see after. I'll just say probably I'll go with the text file only. Let me rename this so that there is no space. Again, it's not like mandatory. I'm just doing it. And, okay. Once this is done, what I'm going to do is I'll go to the networking because once I change this, right, I'll not be able to access from the browser. That's why I did it. Now let's enable from selected networks and I can still choose our existing network where the service endpoint is already configured. Okay, and I'll just click on save. Now if you see, now we have another storage account. This is also like having a file. Let's try to access this. Okay, it's not permission. Okay, That is because we had the managed identity enabled and we granted that permission, right? Okay, that is the reason. So the reason why I wanted to say this is, okay, there is something called service principal endpoint. Okay, service endpoint. Yeah. So here you can basically create a policy, okay, using which you can restrict. Okay, I'll just say storage policy. Like, let's say if you have like 10 storage accounts, right? And you wanted to grant permission to a specific set of storage accounts in a subscription, you can do it here. Okay, because if you remember when we created the service endpoint, right? It was not specific to a single bucket. Instead, we just mapped it something called Microsoft.storage. Okay. So here you can define, okay, to which storage account the permission has to be granted. You can define here and just say add, which means whatever storage account you define here, only that account will have permission, okay, using the service endpoint. So once this policy is created, you can just map it in the same place where we did, right? So if I go to the virtual network, labs, and subnet, so here you will be able to map the policy, whatever we have created. So you should be seeing here. So like this, you can restrict, okay, if you want, if you have multiple buckets, and with this service principal endpoint, you want to give restricted bucket only, I mean a set of buckets only access, then you can come here and do this and click on save. And after this also, still the 0 1 would work. Okay, right now it says is not authorized. Let's wait, since we are just attaching the policy. Okay, I think I did something wrong. Okay, it says authenticating using this. Failed to get this due to this. This request is not authorized to perform this operation 403. Okay, let's go and check, right? Or we'll just keep this. Okay, we'll look at this at the end. I'll just keep this as it is, but we'll come to this. But we need this working. Okay, that's fine. Let's not worry about this. Okay. Because we are going to change something. But wait, this one, let's quickly fix. Let's go to the IAM ones. This is the 0 1 account. Okay, let's check the role assignments once. This is still there, and this is coming via the managed entity. This is fine. And let's go to the networking section, and let's say manage. This is our service endpoint. I'll just say save. This is data container, which I'll not have access. That is also okay. Let's do one thing. Okay. I will do AzCopy login. Let's do again. Okay. Just to cross check. Okay. This is still not working. Okay. To save time, I'm just thinking. Okay. Let's try one more time. Okay. Container, this looks fine. I'll just revert the changes just to see if it is still working. Then again we'll come to this part. This is for 0 1. Okay, this is working. And let's enable this. This is the endpoint status is enabled. Save. This is still working. Okay. How about 0, 2? Okay. 0, 1. At least if we have one working, that should be fine. Okay. I was about to show you something like with the NS lookup. Okay. If you see it is still going via public IP. Now we want to restrict that. Let's confirm. Okay. This is still working, right? Fine. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to disable the public access altogether. Okay, that is what we are going to do. Now, let's click on save, and this should stop working. Okay, if you see this request is not authorized to perform this operation. Now, what we wanted to do is I told you there is something called private endpoint, right? Let's create one. So basically, okay, this is how it is going to look like. When you create a VM, okay, you have something called nick, which will be given. Okay, basically, this nick is the one which is going to hold your IP address for a VM. Now, what we are doing is, okay, let's say this is your VM boundary. Okay, when I create a private endpoint, this is going to create another nick. Okay, and this will have an IP which will be assigned. And there is a separate component called DNS, okay, where there will be an entry made. Okay, there will be something called private DNS. I know we haven't seen this service, but soon we will see. Just for now, think this is used for that name resolution, and your storage account will be sitting somewhere here. Okay, I'll just say storage account. Now, your communication, once you have the private link, right, it will go via this. Basically, here you will have the details about your storage account, and that IP address will also be mentioned here. Okay, which means from this DNS, it will know, okay, it has to go to the storage account. So if you have this sort of communication, it will not go through the public endpoint. Okay, that is what we are going to achieve. Probably first we'll create this. Again, I'll come to that diagram part again. What I'm going to do is, I'll just to show you again. We right now we have disabled the public access altogether. Completely it's shut down. Now I'm creating something called private endpoint. Okay, and I'll just say secure access. We'll just give a name, and if you see, it's going to create a network interface. Okay, and we'll go with this region because that's where our storage account is there, and target sub resource. Okay, so storage account has multiple services: blob, table, queue. I know we haven't seen these things yet, but there are like this different services. Okay, in our case it is going to be a blob service for this use case. Okay, that's the target sub resource, right? Next one is we are going to tell from which network, virtual network, you want this endpoint to be located. And I'm going to tell this is my virtual network, and I'll go with the default subnet. And I'm telling dynamically allocate a IP address. Okay. And this is the DNS part which I told. I'll show you in the separate window as well. But just see, there is a private link blob dot something which gets created, and this is the DNS zone which will be created. I'll show you again. Okay, again we'll be seeing DNS also in the later session, but for now just remember this is an entry which will be made when you enable the private endpoint. And let's create one. This would take 1 or 2 minutes while this is getting created, right? I'll show you something here. So this is what we are trying to achieve when we do an AZ copy list for the container, it has to go via this IP and hit the storage account. That is what we are trying to do. While that is going on, I'll quickly go to the VM, and I told you there is something called a network interface card, right? This is the network interface card, which will hold your IP address. Okay, this network interface is what we are creating separately that will be mapped to your storage account. Okay, let this go. And if you see here, this is the IP which we have for our VM, and this is the public IP. In case if you want to remove your public IP, etc., and all, this is the place where you come and remove that public IP if you want. Okay, right now I don't want to do it because we don't have any jump server or anything. Uh, but this is the place where you can come and do it. Okay. Now let's see if this is done. Okay, this is still going on, right? While that is going on, let's see if we have a private DNS zone. This is what I was talking about. Still now there is no, okay, you see, right? Now it got created. So for all the set of service under storage account, right? Like there are like bunch of other service also for which you could still have this type of private link created if needed. So in our case, it is private link.blob. This is the common name which you get. Okay, you cannot modify this one. So like this, you also have for Azure files and all other services. Okay, in our case, it is the one. Probably let's click on this and go to records. Okay, so there are different types of DNS records which are available. Okay. Here, whatever you see here, it is a record. Okay. Anyone knows what is a record in DNS means? Like, what is the use of this? Any idea? I'll tell you. So, a record is nothing but it's going to help to map a name to an IP address. Okay. In this case, to store host name, yeah, but there are like different types of records as well. Yeah, host name is one thing. So especially this a record, right, this is going to translate this host name to this IP. Okay, I told you, know, there will be an IP which gets allocated. Similarly, if I click on add, there are like different types of records. Okay, this is for IPv6. This is to have a name resolution. Okay, probably like if you, I mean, points from one name to another name. When we talk more about DNS, I'll show all these things practically so that you get a better understanding. But there are different sets of records. Okay, with this private DNS in place, Azure, I mean, this private link will be able to work. So let's go to this resource, and if you see the DNS configuration, our FQDN, right? This is the storage endpoint, storage upon endpoint. This is mapped to this IP, okay? And that is how our private link is created. Now, if I do AzCopy, you see, like right now, we have completely disabled the public access, okay? If I go here, let's go to the containers, not containers, networking. You see, right, public access is completely disabled, and now all your communication is happening in a more secured manner. And if I do ns lookup, now you will not see the public IP address at all here. It's 10.0.0.5. Okay, which means it's not no way going through internet, or it's not even using the public IP which is given to that service. This is like more secure way of accessing your storage account from a VM. Okay, in fact, we are not even passing any credentials. That is because that is handled by the managed identity, and that's how we are able to access the storage account. Okay, again, like there are different layers to this. Okay, the managed identity, whatever we configured, that helps in solving the authentication part. The authorization part is something which we handled with the permission which we gave during that IAM setup. This private endpoint, service endpoint, and all is going to help in telling you how your traffic is going to flow, how it's going to hit the endpoint. Okay, with private endpoint, it's no way going to talk to internet. It's going to have a secure communication with the Azure backbone network. So there is no private endpoint. I mean, there is no internet or the public IP which we will be hitting. This is the proof. Okay, if you remember, like when we did without the private endpoint, this is the IP we were hitting. And now if you see, this is the IP we are hitting. And this was the DNS name which we had as well. Okay. Any questions? You are able to get it? Okay. Okay, fine. So I'll proceed. Okay, I told I'll just have one small demo, right? So of other things. This queues and tables is something which you'll not see quite frequently used. Okay, but again, it all depends, right? So I have also seen companies using it. So this is like tables is nothing but it's like a key value style storage. Okay, like if you are aware of like NoSQL database and all, right, there is like key value store which you can keep. That is what this is going to store. So these are like very, you might be wondering, like we already have like other ways of storing, or tables are also available in SQL database, but this is more for like you get it for very less price. And these are mostly used for small, or I mean intermediate operation. Let's say you have an application where you want to store some set of information, let's say login information, until that user gets disconnected and all. Those kind of things would be stored here and they will do the work. And for those kind of things they will do it. Okay, for storing session information, login information and all in your application level, not at the DB level. This is for the application layer. If they want to store something, this is kind of a, like a very lightweight, and this can scale easily. Okay, since this is like a service which they are offering, this can scale up easily. So that's where they use tables. Okay, probably I'm going to show you in a demo. Okay, from the UI, I cannot directly show it, but there are ways using which we can do it. Wait, since I have disabled the public access, that's why you don't see it. So if I go here, okay, here also I disabled it, is it? Let's say manage, and I'll just remove this. Let's refresh this page and go to tables. Now it's what? I am with my admin account. Okay. Something is strange. This is the account. Networking, enable all access. Okay, fine. So this is how you get. If I want to create a table, I'll just go and define saying table one, and I just create it. Okay. Similarly for queues. Okay, queues is nothing but like there will be a sender who sends a message. For example, let's say think about a user session login, right? User logs in. Okay. Um, till the user completes his task. Let's say user logged in and he's in the process of placing an order. Okay, and the moment he goes to cart until finishes the order, there will be a bunch of APIs which has to be called, right, for the whole application to process the data. So queues is something which is going to keep an eye. Once that complete thing is done, it's going to take the acknowledgement and complete the queue. Okay, uh, I mean, this is more on the development side they use it. So I will show you a small demo. Okay, this is the code I have. So what I will do is I'll quickly run it. Okay, so that you will feel it what I'm saying. Okay, though I'm just telling it in a theoretical way, but if I show you, you will get a better understanding. Okay, this is a simple application which I made using Fast API and a bunch of other Python libraries, okay, for this demo. And if you see, okay, I what I can do is I can just say create an order. Okay, let's say this is the application. Okay, and I'm just saying I'll just say customer 10 and I'm placing an order. Okay, this is the order we have placed. And what I will do is I'll go back to the storage account, and this is the storage account which I have already configured. Okay, and if I go to the tables, you okay, what I will do, there is something called storage browser. Okay, let's go to the tables, orders. You see this data, right? Wait, what is this? Let me close this. Okay, this is the order which we just posted. Okay, if you see the status is created, that is what you see in the UI as well. And if I go to view orders, this is the status. Now let's go to the queue. Okay, and right now this order is not yet processed. Okay, still it is in the created phase. That's why it is still in the queue. The moment I go to process orders, right, this is going to process my order. Okay, nice. Internal server error. Let's check. Okay, processed orders. Now, if I go here, refresh, this message from the queue is done because that's how the code is written. As soon as I process the order, the our order is marked as completed. Probably if I go here, let's refresh. It is still in the okay. This got stuck somewhere. What we will do is let's submit one more order. Wait. This time we'll just say quantity as 10. We'll place an order. Now, if you go back to the queue, there are like three things. Okay, three messages in the queue. As soon as we click on process, okay, something wrong with the code. Let's see. Okay, actually there is an exception. Okay, anyways, like what usually happens is this will go from this queue, okay, and here you will see the status as processed. Just before the call, this demo worked, but for some reason it's broken. But once this is changed to processed, you will not see those things here. Okay, now right now because of error, all these things are going to deferred state and it is breaking. There is a problem with that process order function, which I don't want to troubleshoot now. But the idea is this is what, okay. So once something is done, it's going to watch and then update it and close it. So this is what I had for today. And what I will do is I will stop the recording